Merry meet. Back again today. I want to tell you guys about my Black Madonna dream. It was back in the early 90s, and we were camping a lot, and I'm not really sure. We started out with a pop-up, and then we went to a travel trail, and then eventually got a motorhome. I think we were camping actually in the pop-up or the travel trail at the time. But anyway, we were home, and I had this dream, and when I woke up, it was so vivid and so real that I wasn't sure that it really didn't happen. And the dream repeated itself several times also. But anyway, the dream was I was in a motorhome in a campground, and it had been raining, and I opened the front door and I stepped it on the top step, and I'm looking out all over the campground, and all out in front of me there's all this water. I mean, it's like a lake. Not really sure, it might have been a lake, but there were campers all around the edge, and the water was you know, just all over the place. Off to my left, there, up from the shore, was a pavilion. Well, on my right, I noticed this little bent over man come with his net, and he walked into the water, and he was zigzagging back and forth and getting a little deeper and deeper all the time, and he had his net and he was just dipping. He never raised his head, he never looked to the right or the left, he looked straight ahead, straight down at what he was doing, and just kept dipping. And he's going out, and he's like halfway through, and the water's coming up on him, and it comes up to his neck, it comes up to his nose, and the next thing I know, he's going underwater. Well, as he's going underwater, my eye is attracted over to the right, and this tall, erect, beautiful black woman, like a Nubian princess, walks out, and she has a turban on her hair, and she's very erect, and she walks into the water, and she's looking around, and she walks on out, and as she gets almost to the center, she looks over at me and says something, and I'm startled because the man was oblivious to the fact that I was there, and it was like I was observing, not like I was actually a part of what was going on, until she actually spoke to me, and I was startled. And so she said, "It's okay, I'll take care of it." And she keeps on going. Well, I noticed that as she's crossing through the center where he went underwater, the water's not even up to her waist yet. So she walks on across, and she walks out of the water and walks on up to the pavilion. Then I noticed the little man here. He comes up out of the water, and he's still got his head bent, and he's still dipping, and still nothing in his net, but he's still dipping. So anyway, I woke up, and this dream was so real. So I did some research to find out exactly what it meant. I mean, I knew some of the things, like I knew that the motorhome in my dream meant fun and relaxation, because that's what it meant to me. Anyway, I knew that being on the top step of my front door meant a high perspective, or the highest level that I was at the time. The water was very clear, so I knew that was purity, and also stood for spiritual, emotional purpose, that type of thing. Clarity of thought. The tall Nubian princess with the turban on her head, the turban signified dignity, authority. She was very proud and very sure of herself. The little man was the one that was the hardest to figure out, but I finally realized that he was the old way of thinking, the patriarchal way of thinking. Straight ahead, don't veer off right or left, don't look right or left. Straight ahead, this way, this is the only way, this is the true way, this is the way you do it. And that was pretty much the way I was raised in the Baptist church. This is the way you do it. You don't look at any other way of doing anything. You know, this is it. So I kind of realized that he stood for my old way of thinking, the old way of doing things. So this began my search. And in searching, I found out that there were many black MaDonnas, many different countries, Mexico, Germany, Switzerland, Poland, Spain, Sicily, India, Belgium, Croatia, France, Ireland, Italy, Kosovo, Malta, Lithuania, Russia, Brazil, Chile, Costa Rica, Trinidad, Asia, the Philippines, Upper Egypt, just to name a few, all have black MaDonnas. And in all these cultures, she represents the earth, fertility, the grandmother, the feminine principle, the primordial mother, and is a symbol of wisdom. I found out that as far back as 4000 BCE, in ancient Samaria, the goddess was worshipped as Sybil, Iana, Ishtar, Astarte, and Artemis. About 2 weeks after having this dream, I was at the post office, and I got into a conversation with a man up there that I had never met before, but one thing led to another, and we started talking about dreams. How we got on the topic, I have no idea. Divine intervention is the only thing I can say, because he was telling me about the strange dream he had had that was just so real, and that he'd had it several times, that at least once every week, which has only been a couple weeks since he'd had it, but at least once, twice a week, he'd have this dream. So he began telling me about it, and as he's telling me, I start getting chill bumps, because he had a black MaDonna dream also. The individual details were a little bit different, like I was in a motorhome, he was on a horse. But then at the time I was into camping, and that was kind of the center of my world at the time. He was a horseman, he had horses and had a ranch and this kind of thing, and so that was what he did, so that was the perspective he was coming from. And so I just couldn't believe my ears, and we stood there and we talked for I don't know how long, and I told him about my dream and everything. And so I came home, got on the internet, and started looking up, and I found out that people all over the world, men and women, were having dreams. They were having unconscious manifestations of the black MaDonna. And I thought, wow, you know, a universal dream that people all over the world are having. Well, I went on to find out that what is it, Jung, J-U-N-G, how you pronounce it. I'm not great at pronouncing words, as my daughter always points out. But the Carl Jung thinkers, they identified the phenomenon of this dream as the emergence of a latent feminine force demanding conscious recognition. And I also found out that the Sufis taught that the goddess was the third person of the Catholic Trinity. She was thought of as the Holy Ghost, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Well, the Holy Ghost was feminine. Also, in the early Christianity, it was mother, father, child, or conception, creation, birth. I thought this was very interesting. One thing that I learned back then, that when I was reading about the Black Madonnas all over the world, another common thread that kept going through was that they kept repeating that she did not belong to any man, but to all men. That she provided life, that all men came into the world through her and would return to her. Kind of reminded me of the verse I was taught as a child: from dust you were born, and from dust you will return. To dust you will return. I also found out that in Salerno Cathedral in Italy, on the altar, they have inscribed, "Darkness precedes light, and she is mother." So the light is the mother. The dark feminine, the eternal womb, is also the light. I thought that was really interesting. So that was my Black Madonna dream, and that was what began an even deeper search. And it was from there that I branched off into, I think it was Starhawk's book, The Spiral Dance, was one of the first books I read, and then a couple of Scott Cunningham herbal books, and I found them very interesting. So that's a little bit more about me, and the next video I'm planning on making, and the reason I've taken, and I haven't done that already, I'm going to tell you guys about my croning ceremony. And I don't think there's much on YouTube about croning. I haven't, I saw a couple videos that when I put in croning that came up, and that was it. So I want to get my a few of my items down that I can show you also before I do that video. That's why I've been waiting. In my dream, the Black Madonna, a few years later, I was at a festival, and I met a young lady that was doing handmade dolls, and she called them spirit dolls. And I got this one from her, because the spirit doll, I'm going to try to hold it up and back so you can see it if I can get it in the camera here. The dress that she has on, and she's got little tiny little feet sticking out here, but the dress that she has on looks almost identical to the colorings in the dress that was in my dream. This spirit doll has hoop earrings and beads in her hair, or mine had a turban, and her hair's all in braids. But the Black Madonna in my dream had a turban on her head. But this spirit doll, when I came across it, it reminded me so much of my Black Madonna dream that I had to have it. And she's been with me for quite a while now. So I just thought I'd show you that. Okay, guys, time for me to hit the bed. It's almost 2:30, And love, light, and laughter.